We're finally back. We always say how beneficial a bye week is, but it's always really good to come off of it and get ready for football. It leaves you missing something when you're gone. Florida Atlantic Voice. Sign up wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe as we are getting set for North Texas at FAU Stadium. And before we really dig in here, want to make sure that we are acknowledging the horrifying conditions post Hurricane Helene that are being seen and experienced by those who are in Georgia, in North Carolina, especially Tennessee. I know that our good friend and FAU super fan, someone who has been around FAU athletics for a long time, multitude of capacities, but most prominently as the best damn fan that FAU has, and that's Jack Whitten. He and his girlfriend live up in Asheville, North Carolina, in an area that maybe was hit worse than anybody, and they're okay. And Jack, because he's awesome, has been volunteering, trying to help the cause up there, sporadic internet and power, but certainly thinking about him, all of those who live around him. And Tom Herman made the comment before the bye week that 40 to 50 players on the roster had family or loved ones in the vicinity of all of the terrible weather and destruction that took place in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And that's going to be maxed out with this roster with Hurricane Milton and the aftermath of that hitting the west coast of the state of Florida. And we're all going to feel effects from it, but none more so than Sarasota, Tampa, Fort Myers, that area. So we are certainly cognizant of things much larger than football that matter a whole lot more than wins and losses, and are prominently affecting the FAU football and FAU community as a whole. So wanted to make sure that we talked about that before we got onto the much more mundane task of talking FAU football. All right, so North Texas. This is going to be a 7:00 kickoff at FAU Stadium on Saturday. I had a couple of ideas for this edition coming off the bye, and we could have gone a couple of different directions here, but I want to put it to the fans, those who listen to the podcast. This is, after all, Florida Atlantic Voice in the spirit of this great nation, a democracy. And so I asked the following question back on Monday of this North Texas week on Twitter at KLV Says, by the way, if you'd like to follow. I promise it's not that good a follow, but if you want to keep up with FAU, keep up with me, keep up with the podcast, or just the regular inane garbage that's going through my mind, it's all there for you at KLV Says on Twitter. I asked the following question. Did you want a Florida Atlantic Voice previewing this North Texas game? Did you want a Florida Atlantic Voice with a one-on-one with Baba Miller, FAU super prospect, who is going to be a big part of what appears to be a very promising year for FAU basketball, or a revealing John Jacobs one-on-one? So 2 basketball options and a football option, and you, the Florida Atlantic Voice public, selected a North Texas football preview. So alas, here we go. And we will be on the Florida Atlantic Voice having Baba Miller and John Jacobs here in the coming weeks, because I promise you those conversations are awesome. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank everybody for the kind words about the appearance that Bugs Brown made here on the Florida Atlantic Voice FAU Corner. Got a lot of great feedback on it. He is phenomenal. He is just a true gift to this football program, not only on the field, but off the field. And he showed that in both capacities here on the Florida Atlantic Voice. So thank you. And we're going to try to get some more one-on-one, some more exclusives with FAU football and FAU basketball players as we get on here through October and then into November and December. And hopefully football is still playing midway point of December, and more opportunities from that standpoint. All right. So North Texas comes in, and first and foremost, North Texas, they've had a really strong start to the year. 4-1 on the season, and they have been doing it with the offense and with a robust passing game, and they're led by Chandler Morris, the son of Chad Morris. Now, you may be wondering, how do I know the name Chad Morris? Former Clemson offensive coordinator, SMU head coach, and Arkansas head coach. So this is a coach's son in every definition of the term. North Texas comes in 511 yards per game on offense. We're not talking best in the American Athletic Conference, which they are. There's more to it. They come in at that 511 yards, 8th in the nation in total offense. So forget the American for a second. Yeah, far and away, best offense in the American is North Texas, but also 8th in the nation. So they stack up with the best that this sport has to offer. And Chandler Morris, who's a veteran quarterback, true Texas quarterback, tough guy, stands back there, gunslinger, makes pretty good decisions, pretty fearless with the football. He coaches son, Texan. Like, there you go. You understand the product that you're getting. Tom Herman talked about Chandler Morris and his football pedigree with his media availability this past week leading in to the North Texas game.
You know, coach has got them going really good. They're 4-1, led mostly by their offense. Chandler Morris at quarterback is a young man that I saw in high school, heck of a player in high school, and was a big-time recruit, and got a ton of respect for his dad, former head coach at SMU, Arkansas, offensive coordinator at Clemson, and Chad Morris. So football family, anytime you get those guys, you got a coach's kid at quarterback that was whatever he was, a 4-star talent-wise, who's a coach's kid who's now in his 6th year or 5th year or whatever he is. That's a really, really smart dude back there taking snaps for you. And, he's got 16 touchdowns in 5 games. That's, by my math, that's over 3 a game. But he has thrown, 6 picks, so that's over 1 a game. So we've got to make him – we've got to disrupt him. At the end of the day, if he has a good day, we're not going to have a good day. And we need to make sure that, 1, we cover the guys really well, but 2, that that he feels that kind of pressure. I said on the TV show that I've been around some really, really good quarterbacks, coached some, had to coach against some too, and none of them can throw it from their back, and very few of them can throw it at their best when guys are breathing down their neck. So he's the key defensively. We've got to make him feel uncomfortable, and part of that is making sure guys aren't open too down the field.
So that's pretty revealing there from Tom Herman. If you don't get into Chandler Morris, if you don't make him feel uncomfortable, then you're going to have a bad day. If he has a good day, you're going to have a bad day. That's about as succinct and expertly put as Tom Herman could make it there. Chandler Morris is tied for 3rd in the nation in touchdown passes. He has 16 of them. He throws for, so, sometimes you see that and you think, oh, well, it's a type of offense where maybe like the Dolphins, they're using the passing game as the running game, a lot to the flat, a lot of screens. This isn't the case. He's pushing it down the field, and they're getting almost 10 yards per pass with Chandler Morris's arm. Is that Cam Ward-esque at Miami? No, he leads the nation, by the way, in yards per completion. He's up over 13. That's pretty ridiculous. But we're talking chunk yards almost every time this guy's throwing the ball. He wants to go vertical in the passing game. Will they throw it to the flat, to the edges, throw these hitches, try and set up screens? Sure. But also, there is a lot of space for these receivers to maneuver. There are a lot of pockets in your defense you need to cover for, and you need to have your eyes in 2, 3, 4 different places, or else this is going to be a really rough evening for FAU. So like I said, Morris tied for 3rd in the nation in touchdown passes with 16. 348.9 passing yards per game for North Texas. That is 4th in the country. He is tied for 9th in the nation, Morris is, with 6 interceptions thrown. So that's key to know as well. So he will, because he's trying to push the ball down the field and maybe take some chances, he will throw some picks. Now, as far as being made uncomfortable, which Tom Herman explicitly mentioned, Chandler Morris has been sacked 5 times this year. That is top half in production sacks allowed in the American Athletic Conference. So it is not easy to get to Chandler Morris. All things considered, especially with a guy who's back there and throwing as much as he is, his offensive line is really protecting him. He's only been sacked 5 times. Then you factor in that FAU only has 4 sacks on the entire season, and that's dead last in the American. FAU is going to have to reverse what is now a 5-game trend of not being able to finish off the quarterback. FAU is getting some pressure on the quarterback. Chandler Morris at times is going to feel FAU pass rushers, but as far as FAU pass rushers putting Chandler Morris on his back, FAU is going to have to do something significantly different than what it has been able to execute in the opening handful of contests in this 2024 season. So that's very, very important to note, is that this is certainly going to have to be FAU's best pass rushing effort of 2024. And again, a very good defense, but maybe the one bugaboo is not a ton of sacks for FAU. So you got to get back there more so than you have in the first 5 games, and you've got to make contact. You got to rough up legally Chandler Morris in that sense. Now, as far as North Texas is concerned with this passing game, they have thrown it all over the likes of South Alabama, Texas Tech, Tulsa, and Wyoming. Those are the 4 FBS en route to 4-1, the 4 FBS opponents that North Texas has faced, and the passing game has gotten going. Their lone loss, they gave up 66 to Texas Tech. That's their lone loss of the season. Now, when you look at the passing defenses of those 4 schools I just mentioned that North Texas went up against and were able to throw the ball against at a very high clip, South Alabama, Texas Tech, Tulsa, Wyoming. Wyoming comes in 79th best passing defense in the country, okay? Tulsa at 118. Texas Tech, 132nd ranked pass defense. South Alabama, 133rd. So this is some silver lining if you're an FAU fan you can take out of this. North Texas has had its way through the air with Chandler Morris winging it all over the yard against 4 defenses where the best pass defense comes in at 79. And then you've got 118, 132, and 133. Those defenses already susceptible to the pass, and then a good pass offense, and it absolutely torched them. Florida Atlantic, 134.4 yards per game allowed through the air. That's 6th in the nation. So, yes, will this be the best passing offense that FAU faces all year? Is this probably far and away the best passing defense that North Texas will face all year? So that matters. That matters. You have the top passing offense in the AAC and the 4th best in the nation going up against the top pass defense in the AAC and the 6th best in the nation in Florida Atlantic. All right, that's going to be fun. This is going to be the test. This is where Bugs Brown, Day Hill, Jaden Williams, who Tom Herman said this week is going to be back from his injury that kept him out of the Wagner game. This is the test for these guys. Can they hold up against this aerial attack, this air raid onslaught? We're going to find out. And North Texas is going to find out, can they dice up defenses that are better than 79th in the country in pass defense? A lot on the line for both these teams. A lot of questions to be answered for both these teams. Florida Atlantic also has 5 interceptions on the year. FAU is 43rd in the country, yards per completion allowed. So that'll get it done. Like, that's winning football. That is above where we put in that category what FAU's standard needed to be nationwide in order to put itself in postseason football conversations. So it's all lining up. Now, I know what's going to happen. Someone's going to hear me talk about this, FAU's pass defense, and say, oh, Ken, UConn ran for 400-something yards against FAU, and you played Army who never throws the ball. I understand that. But for comparison's sake, fine. say it gets extrapolated a little bit. You're playing two normal offenses there with normal offensive attacks. FAU still probably comes in top 20 in the nation in yards per game allowed through the air, which is still 50-something ranking points higher than anything that North Texas has gone up against this season. So I think that's a disingenuous approach on your point if you're going to question me about that. So obviously limiting the pass game, that's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely important. North Texas, third in yards per play in the American Athletic Conference. And when you look at the difference between what they generate out of the passing game and what they generate out of their rushing attack, the number of passing plays compared to number of rushing plays is actually fairly similar for North Texas. It's within a reasonable amount. It's not 50-50, but it is close enough to 60-40 where you can say, all right, they're not always just going back there and throwing. Chandler Moore's chucking. But look at the production. North Texas has 927 more passing yards than they do rushing yards this season on offense. That's the largest discrepancy between those two offensive aspects of any offense in the league. So what does that tell you? If you start making North Texas question what they're doing through the air, they don't necessarily have a plan B. They run it a decent amount, but they don't get near amount the production. They don't trust it as much. They don't execute it as well as they do the passing game. So if you can get to Chandler Morris, maybe you can pick him off. Maybe you can put him flat on his back. Maybe you can force him into some bad decisions, some throwaways, get outside of the pocket. If you do that and make them question what they're doing, or at least make them question the frequency in which they can hit dangerous plays on you, then if you dip into their rushing attack, if they're trying to switch up the looks a little bit, you have immediately come up with a win that could carry you into the late stages of the game. All right. So that is extremely, extremely important. We mentioned North Texas, the yards per game on offense, best in the AAC, 8th in the nation. Florida Atlantic, the offenses they have faced this year. So yeah, they're taking on the 8th best offense in the nation and the 4th best offense passing wise in the country in North Texas. Army, who FAU for the most part held in check after a disastrous opening 2 drives. Army comes in 28th in the nation. That's no slouch number. UConn, who ran all over FAU, 30th in the nation. So this is not FAU's first go around with a top quarter offense in the country. Lost both those games. In UConn, you can say, maybe this is a harbinger of things to come. But don't forget, if UConn had to rely on throwing the ball in comparison to how much they relied on running the football, then I might say, oh boy, this is going to be a tough task for FAU. But it is clear that the pass defense for Florida Atlantic is what this unit relies upon. Okay, the strength is the pass defense. That is North Texas's forte. FAU's rush defense was non-existent against UConn. But FAU's rush defense did hold up a decent amount against Army, enough to put themselves in a position to be in that game. But, again, North Texas, their forte is not running the football, which is FAU's defensive weakness. Their forte is throwing the football, which is FAU's defensive strength. So this is a little bit different situation than Army and UConn with this elite offensive attack. By the way, if you're looking for the rest of the FBS numbers, Michigan State 99th in total offense. FAU's defense did a wonderful job against Aiden Chiles and Michigan State. And FIU, we saw how that worked out, 111th in the country in total offense, and FAU ended up riding a pretty dominant late stages first quarter, entire second quarter, entire third quarter route of FIU. So there you go. I think the main takeaways from this is Defensively for Florida Atlantic, you have to make Chandler Morris uncomfortable. You have to make Chandler Morris uncomfortable, okay? More so than you've made any other quarterback uncomfortable. Only 4 sacks on the season for Florida Atlantic. Last in the AAC, going up against a North Texas offensive front that's only allowed Chandler Morris to be sacked 5 times. FAU's going to have to change that trajectory a bit. But from a pass defense perspective, yes, it's the best pass defense that FAU is going to face this year, 4th in the country with what North Texas trots out there. But I want to remind you, I want to reiterate, I want to reinforce, this is going to be the best pass defense that North Texas faces in 2024. At FAU, this unit right here, 6th in the nation against the air attack. So it's not just FAU's concern. This is also North Texas's concern as well. And North Texas has not gone up against a pass defense that is better than 79th in the country. Wyoming at 79, but then Tulsa, Texas Tech, Alabama, 118, 132, 133 in pass defense rankings. Florida Atlantic is 6th in the country. So North Texas hasn't seen anything like this yet. Nothing like this yet. And the third biggest takeaway for me is that North Texas, 927 more passing yards than rushing yards. If you start to make, even in the slightest amount, North Texas reconsider how much it relies on the air attack to eat up chunk yards and to move the ball down the field, you've already started to gain a foothold for momentum in this football game. All right. So just keep note of that as this game is progressing on Saturday evening. Now let's talk about the FAU offense against North Texas. North Texas's defense is fine. It's about middle of the pack in the AAC all across the board. So it gets the job done enough, and it definitely had an inflating game, much like for FAU. Inflating the run defense numbers was the contest against Army and the contest against UConn. That's what happened against Texas Tech. And in the opener against South Alabama, North Texas gave up over 30 points, but it was the 66 Texas Tech laid on them that really inflated these numbers. So maybe the North Texas defense a little bit better than what it shows right now on paper, but that's all we have to work with. On offense, what about the quarterback position? Tom Herman was asked earlier this week. Cam Fancher had the hand issue, the thumb issue that he's been battling for a good portion of the season. Had his reps cut short in the win over Wagner. The thought was to have him play a little bit in the second half. Did not do so because of the injury that he appeared to re-aggravate in the first half after leading 3 scoring drives for FAU. Cason Wiseman took it the rest of the way. But Tom Herman this week was asked about the reps in practice between Cam Fancher and Cason Wiseman. You remember going into Wagner, they were splitting first team reps, and an insinuation from media towards Tom Herman this week that, hey, what are the percentage of first team reps for both quarterbacks? And Tom Herman, I thought, was he was very, very firm on this. Yeah, as far as splitting reps are concerned, it's not real close. Cam Fancher's the guy.
I wouldn't say mixing. He's been getting the majority. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. With I think a much more comfortable feel for, if we needed to call Cason's number, 1, his readiness, and then 2, kind of us knowing what he's capable of too.
So that's Tom Herman on the quarterback situation. I think pretty clear. Cam Fancher is quarterback 1, and Cason Wiseman is the number 2. I know. What about Tyreek Starks? I still think he's suffering from that injury that has kept him from getting any sort of rep so far this season. So this is a Fancher, this is a Wiseman conversation. Going into Wagner, I tried to make it as clear as I could without overstepping bounds that everything that we heard from Tom Herman, it did not indicate to me that this was a quarterback competition. Cason Wiseman was going to go get reps that you could afford to give him and let him see full speed game action in a game that you anticipated you were going to win by a lot of points. And that's exactly what happened. But it was not a tryout per se to see who is going to be the starting quarterback against North Texas coming off the bye week. Injury notwithstanding, Cam Fancher, Casey Wiseman. Fancher was still the starting quarterback, and this really sort of reinforced it to me. Cam Fancher is the starting quarterback. I want to repeat this. Cam Fancher is FAU's starting quarterback. And I know sometimes there's a herd mentality of when things aren't going well on one side of the ball and you look at the most notable position and say, oh, there's got to be a change there. It's not working. We've talked about a lot on this podcast why it hasn't just been the quarterback position that has been the reason for the offensive struggles, okay? The running attack up until a couple of weeks ago hadn't been able to do anything, and the offensive line was really, really, really struggling to A, protect, and B, create holes. Cam Fancher's the starting quarterback. What Tom Herman's saying there, what we just heard, in my opinion, is now the coaching staff understands what Casey Wiseman is, how to put Casey Wiseman in a position to succeed in case this hand injury gets worse or Cam Fancher suffers an injury that we did not anticipate, something that pops up out of nowhere. But from a pure performance standpoint, no, we're not going to see Casey Wiseman. This is not going to be split reps. This is not going to be a 2-quarterback system. FAU is not doing that. This is Cam Fancher quarterback 1, and you feel a little bit more comfortable in case Casey Wiseman needs to come in an emergency situation. He can run the offense. And I thought all things considered against Wagner, Cam Fancher looked like quarterback 1. He got the job done. He looked good. Other than the interception, other than the red zone interception, FAU was in a scoring position every time that he led the offense, including the possession with the interception. That interception was thrown inside the red zone, inside the end zone. But Fancher, 9 of 12, 150 yards, having the 71-yard hit to Amari Hayes to start the game. Like that's good stuff. That'll get it done. Oh, Ken, it's Wagner. All right, but who else are they supposed to play? That's who they were playing. And Tom Herman and Charlie Fry purposely had both quarterbacks play to get experience against a defense they knew they were going to be able to be wearing down eventually. But Cam Fancher did nothing against Wagner to lose the starting job. He just went out there and he balled. He made the right decisions, and FAU moved the ball. Casey Wiseman, again, this was not a competition, so Casey Wiseman was never going to win the starting job from Cam Fancher, in my opinion, based on everything Tom Herman said going into the Wagner contest. He was never going to be able to win the starting quarterback job. That was not a tryout. That was get reps to a guy you want to make sure you have in your back pocket in case something happens here as we get into the middle point of the season. That's simply all that was. So Cam Fancher is your number 1 quarterback. Casey Wiseman is there, and they feel better about him running the offense in case Cam Fancher goes down for some reason. So there we go. We already mentioned Jaden Williams. Back to the defensive side real quick. FAU safety, the captain. Zeke Moore, tight end, likely back, according to Tom Herman. Now, don't look now, but FAU's running game is starting to show up. Don't look now, but FAU has 3 straight weeks of this running game getting some momentum behind it. FAU 259 yards on the ground against FIU. 163 in the loss against UConn. 315 on the ground against Wagner. So here we go. Now things are starting to pick up a little bit. To me, if you can, and North Texas comes in averaging 149.4 rushing yards allowed, while FAU comes in, and this might be hard to believe for some, 5th best rushing offense in the American at 182 per game, right around there. I believe it's 182.2 if we're being exact. FAU 5th best rushing attack in the American, which is stunning considering how FAU started the season post-Michigan State. But FAU 5th best rushing offense in the league against North Texas, and they're 149.4 allowed on the ground, which is just on the low end of the league. If FAU can hit its average of 182 on the ground, maybe push that to 190 or even into the 200 yards on the ground in the game, FAU has a great chance to win. FAU has a great chance to win. This, what I'm about to say, also goes into it. FAU trending in the right direction. If they can get the ground game going, that also means that in all likelihood, you are claiming the time of possession victory as well. North Texas, for as good as the offense is, this isn't Army where it's all predicated on sitting on the football. Army is ridden time of possession and then lulling you to sleep, hitting you with big plays to 28th in the nation in total offense. North Texas, they're chucking and they're moving. They're chucking and they're moving. North Texas is only a minute better in time of possession at FAU this season. North Texas at 29 minutes, 13 seconds. FAU 28 minutes and 5 seconds. So a little bit goes a long way if you can get the ground game going. The best way to stop an elite big play offense, keep them off the field. The best way to dampen an elite aerial attack, keep them off the field. If FAU can continue to run the ball the way they are, and in the last three, they've gone 259, 163, and 315, and FAU wins the time of possession battle, say they get it to a 34-26 type of ratio, 34 minutes to 26 minutes, FAU's in an even better position to win this football game. See how all these things interconnect? All right? So, we already went through our defensive keys against North Texas. The defensive keys are make it clear that, like the statistics say, FAU is the best pass defense that North Texas will see all year. North Texas has put up Herculean passing numbers. They haven't played anybody with any semblance of a passing defense. The best was Wyoming at 79th. The other FBS opponents come in 118, 132, 133, Tulsa, Texas, Tech, South Al. Okay? Do something that you haven't been able to do all year long, and that's get to the quarterback. FAU last in the American in sacks with 4. Chandler Morris, North Texas quarterback, gets protected as well, at least in the conversation, as well as any quarterback in the American who throws and is relied upon to do a whole lot of the leg work, well, arm work. He's only been sacked 5 times. You only have 4 sacks. Something's got to give if you're FAU. So there's another key right there. Get to Chandler Morris. Get to him, okay? And because North Texas has the largest discrepancy between passing yard production and rushing production, 927 more yards through the air than on the ground, if you start to make North Texas question itself in any way through the air and force them to maybe run a little bit more than they want to, then you're putting yourself in an advantageous position. Then, on offense, first and foremost, Cam Fancher is quarterback 1. So you can stop any sort of chatter that there was any question who's going to start at quarterback for FAU against North Texas. It is Cam Fancher. Kason Wiseman is there. The coaching staff feels comfortable with him now if they need to go to him, but if they need to is the crucial term, the crucial phrase there. Cam Fancher is the number 1 quarterback. FAU continue to get the running game going. 259, 163, 315 on the ground, 3 consecutive games. Here we go. Offensive line's getting a little bit more of a push, and Jabari Mobley and CJ Campbell starting to produce more. Amazing how that works, right? Cause and effect. So keep pounding the ground game. You've got to do better getting yourself in 3rd and short. FAU still facing too many 3rd and longs. You got to get into 3rd and short. Have to get into 3rd and short, okay? FAU has not even come close to doing that enough this season, which is why the offense has sputtered as much, because 3rd and 3 as opposed to 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, or even being behind the sticks, which FAU has done too many times this season. That's the difference between extending drives or having a punt. Between Logan Lupo making another appearance for FAU. But if you get the ground game going as well, and you extend these drives, you keep the North Texas offense off the field, and especially Chandler Morris. And North Texas, no world beater in time of possession, only a minute better than FAU this year. If you can run the ball and you can keep the North Texas offense off the field, you're also going to start winning the time of possession. the less North Texas is on the field, the better it's going to be for FAU. And if you can get to a 34-26 time of possession discrepancy, then you start to feel like, hey, we're doing our job. And maybe you don't win this game, but you're putting yourself in a position to win. All right. So those are the major keys in this one. Those are the major keys in this one. Just a couple of different things I wanted to mention here before we wrap it up on this edition of the Florida Atlantic Voice. By the way, Florida Atlantic Voice is presented by Robes Law Group. Robes Law Group in the community for you. Office is in Delray Beach. Robes Law Group, they are helping you with your personal injury and auto accident matters. Robes Law Group, robeslawgroup.com. robeslawgroup.com, proud presenting partner of the Florida Atlantic Voice. There was some discussion about Ja'Sean Platt. He has made the decision to redshirt the rest of this season, and it's another blow to a wide receiver room that has already been decimated by injury, and now Ja'Sean Platt's going to take the rest of the year. Platt was the second leading receiver for FAU. Now you're left to Amari Hayes, and then you're really going to have to piece this thing together if you're Tom Herman and Charlie Fry, and try and make the most of your receiver room. And unfortunately, is maybe we talked about the depth being a strength for FAU this year in the receiving room going into the season. Now, not sure you're any better off than you were last year. And last year you had LeJontay Wester that you could focus primarily on. So there's going to be balance. there's going to be balance within the receivers, but you're having a lot of guys who are green now having to see time that maybe didn't anticipate having to lean on, especially this early in 2024. Tom Herman said this week that he's been told, Ja'Sean Platt told him, I am redshirting with the intention of returning. I think that in this era of college football, the immediate reaction is, redshirting this early in a season, he's going to the portal. According to Tom Herman, Ja'Sean Platt was pretty clear. I need to continue to develop my body. Ja'Sean Platt came in, didn't get a redshirt year, was working special teams right away, and kudos to Ja'Sean if indeed he's taking this red shirt because he realizes I'm not there yet and I want to be a bigger producer. And I know that I haven't had the time to develop during the course of a season. So now I'm going to do the mature thing and not go through this year with the understanding I'm not where I want to be. And then he was not where he wanted to be. And he still was a very reliable piece of that wide receiver room. But Ja'Sean Platt saying, hey, I need to work on my body. I don't want to burn a year of eligibility if I can be a better player with full eligibility moving forward. So Tom Herman says Ja'Sean Platt not going to get into the transfer portal because, again, conventional wisdom would be someone announces they're redshirting to this point of the season. Well, see you later. But that's good news. And if Ja'Sean Platt does indeed stay, there is going to be a significant place for him in coming seasons here at FAU. Just a matter of circumstance. He didn't get his red shirt. He played special teams right away, was forced into some action right away, didn't get to actually sit, watch, learn, lift, get big, and make sure his body was made right. So now he's doing that. And I think that that's commendable. I think that's extremely respectable. And he's a great young man with a high ceiling. And if this can help him get to his ceiling, especially in an FAU uniform, then that's a mature decision that I don't think I would have made in a similar spot. Ja'Sean Platt, wise beyond his years, for coming to I'm sure what was difficult, but also adult-like conclusion to how this whole thing should play out. So FAU is down 4 of its top 6 receivers. If you go back to mid-August, what you anticipated FAU was going to have, 4 of the top 6 now are out of commission. BJ Alexander, EJ Horton, now Ja'Sean Platt, Joseph Young. So it's rough going in that receiver room, and you're going to have to get creative. There are some guys who are going to have to grow up pretty quickly at that position. Oh, one more thing, and I don't mean to take shots at all. I just thought that this was interesting. Chad Morris, we mentioned he is Chandler Morris's father, coach's kid. Chandler Morris, the quarterback for North Texas, but Chad Morris, former offensive coordinator at Clemson, head coach at SMU, did a wonderful job there, head coach at Arkansas. Just a little tidbit of information. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I found it interesting. Chad Morris, still the only full-time quarterback. Chad Morris, the only full-time non-interim head coach in Arkansas history to never win a conference game. Never won an SEC game in his short stint as Arkansas head coach. Didn't even last 2 full seasons. Chad Morris, the only full-time Arkansas head coach to never win an SEC game. So there you go. Impress your friends, impress your family. Go to the water cooler. If anybody still does that, if you work from home, I don't know, go to your sink. Tell your spouse or tell your kids about what you learned today on the Florida Atlantic Voice. Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group. RobesLawGroup.com. ROBES. RobesLawGroup.com. That's RobesLawGroup.com. ROBES. RobesLawGroup.com. In the community for you. Yes, you, injury attorney, auto accident attorney, Robes Law Group, ROBES, RobesLawGroup.com, offices in Delray Beach. Don't forget to subscribe to the Florida Atlantic Voice podcast. Oh, just hit the button. Subscribe. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Just press subscribe. We don't have to go searching for this. You have the content come right to you. It doesn't take any time out of your day. You got a little notification. Hey, podcast is here, and that's all. And it helps me too. All right. So tell your fellow FAU fans, tell the FAU students, this is the Insider Podcast when it comes to Florida Atlantic. You want to get inside Florida Atlantic athletics, football, men's basketball? This is where you do it right here with the voice of FAU, Ken LaVicka, and the Florida Atlantic Voice. Here's to a successful Saturday against North Texas. Make sure that you stay safe within and then in the aftermath of this Hurricane Milton. The weather's supposed to be phenomenal with maybe some breeze, but nothing more than that on Saturday night at FAU Stadium. Can't wait to see you out there for FAU and North Texas. We'll talk to you then with the Owls and the Mean Green. This has been the Florida Atlantic Voice, wherever you get your podcast. Bye-bye.